Hare Krishna. Thank you all for joining. Let's make a start with Radha Madhav. Jai Radha Madhava Jaya Kunj Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Giravardhari Yashodanandan Vraj Jana Ranjan Yashodanandan Vraj Jana Ranjan Yamuna Tiravanchari Jai Radha Madhava Kunj Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunj Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Bol Om Gyan Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakya Chakshu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Sam Rupa Kadamayam Datati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadhvetam Savadutam Krishna Setam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shivishakhanvitam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kant Radha Kant Namastate Tapta Kanchan Gorangi Rate Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sutadevi Pranmami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatu Vrihascha Kirpa Sindhubevacha Paditana Pavnebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namo Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasti Go Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Mukham Kruti Vachalam Pangum Yate Garim Yat Kirpa Tahamande Shri Gurundin Taranam Paramananda Madhvam Shri Chaitanya Ishram Hari Om Tassat Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Cheva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamuduriyat Nashtapreshu Abdureshu Nityam Bhagavata-Sevayā Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhakti Bhagavati Nestiki Hare Krishna. So let's continue. Last time we were talking about prescribed duties. We were talking about devotion, the importance of devotional service. So we'll just take it from there. We're on verse 10, chapter 2, and I'm just going to share that with you if I can find it. Okay. Wonderful. All right, so Shloka 10, it says, Kamasya Nendriya Pratir Labho Jiveta Yavata Jivasya Tattva Jigyasa Nartho Yash Cheha Karamabhi. So Kamasya is of desires, Na is not, Indriya senses, Pritihi satisfaction, Lava gain, Jiveta self-preservation, Yavata so much so, Jivasya of the living being, Tattva the absolute truth, Jigyasa inquiries, not artha and ya cha iha whatsoever else, karma be by occupational activities. So kamasya nendriya priti labho jiveta yavata jivasya tattva jigyasa nartho yas cheha karma be. So translation, life's desires should never be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life or self-preservation. Since a human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth, nothing else should be the goal of one's works. So, we keep thinking, why they keep saying, don't do sense gratification, don't do sense gratification. We're given senses, what's the problem? Why can't we do sense gratification? Well, there's nothing wrong with sense gratification if you want to stay in this material world. Then, by all means, please, enjoy yourself as much as you can to your heart's desire. It's not a problem. But if you want to get out of this material world, then you have to avoid sense gratification senses, because that's what binds us to this material world. If you want to break that bond, then you have to let go of the sense gratification, like the monkey, the jar, and the banana. You have to let go of the sense gratification. It's difficult. You want it, but you have to let go. So, Prabhupada ki jai. The completely bewildered material civilization is wrongly directed towards the fulfillment of desires in sense gratification. In such civilization, in all spheres of life, the ultimate end is sense gratification. In politics, social service, altruism, philanthropy, and ultimately in religion or even in salvation, the very same tint of sense gratification is ever increasingly predominant. In the political field, the leaders of men fight with one another to fulfill their personal sense gratification. The voters adore the so-called leaders only when they promise sense gratification. As soon as the voters are dissatisfied in their own sense satisfaction, they dethrone the leaders. The leader must always disappoint the voters by not satisfying their senses. The same is applicable in all of the fields. No one is serious about the problems of life. Even those who are on the path of salvation desire to become one with the absolute truth and desire to commit spiritual suicide for sense gratification. But the Bhagavatam says that one should not live for sense gratification. One should satisfy the senses only in so much as required for self-preservation. Not for gratification, but for preservation. And not for sense gratification. Because the body is made of senses, which also require a certain amount of satisfaction. There are regulative directions for satisfaction of such senses. So if you want to satisfy the senses, then you have to do them in a regulated way. But the senses are not meant for unrestricted enjoyment, which people want to enjoy until they really blow their minds. So, for example, marriage or the combination of a man with a woman is necessary for progeny, but it is not meant for sense enjoyment. In the absence of voluntary restraint, there is propaganda for family planning, but foolish men don't know that family planning is automatically executed as soon as there is search after the absolute truth. Seekers of the absolute truth are never allured by unnecessary engagements in sense gratification, because the serious students seeking the absolute truth are always overwhelmed with the work of researching the truth. In every sphere of life, therefore, the ultimate end must be seeking after the absolute truth, and not that sort of engagement will make one happy, because he will be less engaged in varieties of sense gratification. And what that absolute truth is explained as follows. So let's see if there's anything else we can say about this. So Srila Prabhupada explains that sense gratification should be really as far as to keep body and soul together, so whatever we're doing, we should just do enough to keep the body and soul together. In other words, that that we don't go crazy, and our mind suddenly rebels and just wants to give up everything. Boredom arises, because thing is, the mind has to be ready, right? It has to be ready to accept, and it's not going to accept straight away. It takes time to get the mind to accept things. It takes time. It has to get used to the new environment or new knowledge, new information, has to understand the intelligence. We have to strengthen our intelligence so it can explain to the mind, look, you need to do this for this reason. But if the intelligence doesn't know what to say, then what can the mind do? Mind is like a child. The intelligence is more mature, but intelligence must know what he's going to say to the mind. And intelligence we can only build by scriptural knowledge, by learning. Then we can explain to the mind why can't just do sense gratification, and why you just can't waste time. And it has to be given a good reason. There has to be some reasoning, some logic to it, and that's we're learning that so we can explain to the mind. So it takes time. So we should simply keep our body and soul together, and rest of the time we should be engaged in inquiries about the absolute truth and doing hearing and chanting. So keeping a body and soul together. So at the beginning you might need a bit more time to keep the body and soul together, and less hearing and chanting. But you just push the hearing and chanting more, body and soul together less, like that. So you try to make the proportion the other way around, instead of more body and soul together, you have more hearing and chanting. So in every sphere of life, the ultimate end must be seeking after the absolute truth, and that of engagement will make one happy, because he will be less engaged, less in varieties of sense gratification. And the soul is giving life to the body. This is the problem, but it is sleeping. That's the problem. It's there, but it's sleeping. It's in a dormant state. So the Acharya say jiva jago, and then you will see the spiritual reality. So that waking up is going to take a little bit of time, but we keep working on it. That's the idea, that we keep working on that and try to wake up the soul. It's all there. Once the soul is awakened, all the knowledge and the love for Krishna, it will all awaken as well. The knowledge will awaken, the love will awaken as well. So, but we have to awaken it by hearing and chanting. So, number 10, rather 11. Vandati tat tattva vidas tattvam yaj jnanam advayam brahmeti param atmeti bhagwan iti shabdayate. Vadanti, they say, that tattva vidha is learned souls, tattvam, the absolute truth, yat, which, jnanam, knowledge, advayam, non-dual, brahma iti, known as Brahman, Paramatma iti, known as Paramatma, Bhagwan iti, known as Bhagwan, Shabdayate, it's so sounded. So Vadanti tat tattva vidas tattvam yaj jnanam advayam brahmeti param atmeti Bhagwan iti shabdayate. So learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagwan. So the absolute truth is in 3 parts. And translation or purport: the absolute truth is both subject and object, and there is no qualitative difference there. Therefore, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan are qualitatively one and the same. So qualitatively they are one the same, but they're not complete Only Bhagwan stage is complete. Brahman and Paramatma are apart. The same substance is realized as the impersonal Brahman by the students of Upanishads, as localized Paramatma by the Hiranyagarbhas of the yogis, and as Bhagwan by the devotees. And that's what we want to realize, Bhagwan. In other words, Bhagwan, or the personality of Godhead, is the last word of the absolute truth. Paramatma is a partial representation of the personality of Godhead. And impersonal Brahman is the glowing effulgence in the personality of Godhead, as the sun rays are to the sun god. So Srimad Bhagavatam explained to us about the absolute truth, because a lot of people don't go as far as they think that the impersonal Brahman or the Brahm Jyoti is Bhagwan, or they think Paramatma in the heart is Bhagwan. But it's explaining that they are only partial representation. The full representation is the personal feature of the Lord. Less intelligent students of either of the above schools sometimes argue in favor of their own respective realization. But those who are perfect seers of the absolute truth know well that the above three features of one absolute truth are different perspective views seen from different angles of vision. But sometimes it's hard to convince them. Even when Sukadeva Goswami, he was reciting Bhagavatam to Maharaj Parikshit, there were a lot of people there, a lot of sages there who only believed in partial representation. And so, trying to convince them that God is personal is like a bit of a challenge for Sukadeva Goswami as well. So it is explained in the first sloka of the first chapter of the Bhagavatam. The supreme truth is self-sufficient, cognizant, and free from illusion of relativity. In the relative world, the knower is different from the known, but in the absolute truth, both the knower and the known are one and the same. In the relative world, the knower is the living spirit or superior energy, whereas the known is inert matter or inferior energy. That's like inert matter is usually considered material energy. Therefore, there is a duality of inferior and superior energy, whereas in the absolute realm, both the knower and the known are of the same superior energy. So that's spiritual. We are spiritual, and Bhagwan is spiritual. There's difference in quantity. There are three kinds of energy: the supreme energetic. There is no difference between the energy and the energetic, but there is difference of quality of energies. The absolute realm and the living entities are of the same superior energy, but the material world is inferior energy. The living being is in contact with the inferior energies, illusioned, thinking he belongs to the inferior energy. Yeah, as I've said many times, that's amazing how the inferior energy can overtake our superior energy, how it can put us in illusion. But sometimes they say that, well, it says, we are sleeping, basically, we're in a sleeping state. We have been sort of, we've taken like a sleeping pill. We're not, or we're intoxicated with the illusionary energy. So, we are superior to material energy, yet it can overcome us. Therefore, there is a sense of relativity in the material world. In the absolute, there is no such sense of difference between the knower and the known, and therefore everything there is absolute. So let's see if there's any explanation on this. So we're talking about personalism. That's the absolute truth of Bhagwan. So if we're following personalism of Bhagwan as a devotee, then we are on the road towards Radha and Krishna, not Paramatma or the effulgence. So we say Hare Krishna, Radha and Krishna. And regarding the obstacles, says that never stop. Just because there's some obstacles in the way, physically, mentally, or from other people, never stop. Try to overcome these obstacles. The challenge is not to be stopped by obstacles, because that's the time your faith is tested, your bhakti is tested. So things happen, we get upset, people upset us, it could be devotees, non-devotees, could be family, but family could say, why are you doing this and that, but we don't let people upset us, and we will be upset, but don't hold on to the upset, get out of it using your spiritual intelligence, and especially don't stop your bhakti just because people don't see same way as you do, or you have some misunderstandings. Continue bhakti. And it's also that we may have many weaknesses, but just being on the right road will take you there. So we're on the road to Radha Krishna, and obviously we are minute particles of Krishna, so we have a lot of weaknesses, we have a lot of defects. So if we stay on the path, we don't get off the path. It's like the Parampara example. I saying that if you consider Parampara like a train, you stay on the track, the Parampara will pull you to its destination. So you stay on the right road. Stay on the road to Krishna Lok, although there be problems. But if you stay on the road, the process itself will force you to perfection. So you keep hearing, chanting, glorifying, taking the right, so like-minded association, and eat prasadam only, then that's the right road, and you stick to that, and that itself will take you to your destination. It's like I heard Keshav Maharaj once give an example. He says, like when you're in India and you're on the train, and when you want to get off, everybody's trying to get off all at once, but you don't have to do anything, because you can just stand there and people will just carry you. The crowd will just carry you out of the train, and it's like that. So if you stay put in the right place, you'll be carried out to your destination. So don't worry. And sometimes it can happen that we might go a few steps back because things that happen. We might be set back a little bit, but it doesn't matter. If if there's a setback, it doesn't matter. If you stay on the right road, that's the main thing. If you're on the right road, if you step back a little bit by some chance, or you've been tested, stay on the road, because at least you are on the right road. If you get off the road, then it doesn't matter if you're going forward, back, sideways, you're not going in the right direction. You stay on that path, and even if sometimes there's some reversals in life, you still be carried to your destination. And we're talking about the absolute truth. So, as we mentioned that, some person think that God is light, God cannot be a person, cannot have a form, and yogis think Super Soul is all in all, the Lord is always in the heart, and this is like many people who think the Lord is in the heart, because like Super Soul is there, and we think, well, that's it, He's there and nowhere else. So why do I need to go to temple? Right? Why do I need to go to temple when my body itself is a temple, God is residing in there, then why do I need temple? So people start, getting their own notions, getting their own ideas, that they make up their own philosophies. So we have to be careful with that. So when we argue with somebody, say we're trying to explain to them, that they will probably come out with this kind of argument that my body is a temple, my work is worship, I don't need to go anywhere. So you start scratching, you think, oh, is he right, or am I wrong? Or you start questioning yourself sometimes. So we have to be strong in our philosophy, that we know how to convince them and sometimes convince ourselves as well. And like the yogi may think Super Soul is only in all, and even as devotees, we consider Krishna is in the form of the Absolute and ignore the other features, then it's also incomplete and not learned. So we have to know all three features. We must recognize that the light is the effulgence of Krishna. The super soul is the Paramatma representation of Krishna, and Krishna himself is the personal. So we should know the absolute truth comes in three features, and we should be aware of all three features. So that's important. And there's this example given of, like, you see a mountain from the distance. The mountain is there, right? So mountain could be like the effulgence part, and then you simply see something cloudy. When you go nearer, you see the same mountain, or then you start seeing the greenery on the mountain. That's like the Paramatma feature. So the mountain in the distance, you see a shape, then you see the bit more detail, like Paramatma, or the greenish trees and things on there. But when you actually reach on that mountain or the hill, then you suddenly see, oh, there's so many animals here, there are people here, there are even houses here. There's so much more detail comes from that. So it's different angles of vision. Do you just think God is like a mountain? Do you think God is a mountain with some greenery? Or do you think God is like a mountain with trees and herbs and flowers and animals and people? That's the full version of a mountain, not just some kind of shape or a big form. And another example is of like a train. If somebody hasn't seen a train before, they see the train come from distance. The first thing they see is the light in front of the train. So they think, oh, this is a light coming towards us. So train, some light is called a train. When it gets nearer, you see like a long vehicle. You think, oh, okay. It's just a light with a long body behind it. That's all. That's like Paramatma. And when the train stops and you see, oh no, there's carriages there, and there's people coming in, coming out, like that, and then you see the full version of that. So see different stages, but you must understand all the three stages of that, and that should be our angle of vision. So Krishna is the absolute truth. He is the potency and the potent, like the sun and the sun's rays. And so Srila Prabhupada mentioned that in the Gaudiya Math, they say that Lord Chaitanya is Radha and Krishna. When you realize Radha and Krishna, you automatically realize Paramatma and Paraman as well. But anyway, we're saying that we should know all three stages. Sometimes there's some variations to what to the philosophy. Srila Prabhupada says that we should know understand all three stages. Thank you. So we go to third shloka 12. Tat Shardadana Munyo Jnana Vairagya Yuktaya Pashyanti Atmani Cha Atmanam Bhaktya Shrut Grihitaya. So Tat is that Shardadana, seriously inquisitive, Munya, or Muni, sages, Jnana, knowledge, Vairagya, detachment, Yuktaya, well equipped with, Pashyanti, see, Atmani, within himself, Cha, and Atmanam, the Paramatma, Bhaktya, in devotional service, Shruta, the Vedas, Grihitya, well received. So Tat Shardadana Munyo Jnana Vairagya Yuktaya Pashyanti Atmani Chat Manam Bhaktya Shrut Grihitaya. So the seriously inquisitive student or sage, well equipped with knowledge and detachment, realizes that absolute truth by rendering devotion service in terms of what he has heard from the Vedanta Shruti. So seriously inquisitive student. So it's important to be serious and inquisitive. The absolute truth is realized in full by the process of devotion service to the Lord, Vasudev, or the personality of Godhead, who is the full-fledged absolute truth. Brahman is his transcendental bodily effulgence, and Paramatma is his partial representation. As such, Brahman Paramatma realization of the absolute truth is but a partial realization. So we need to realize complete. There are 4 different types of human beings: the karmis, the jnanis, yogis, and the devotees. And now it's going to tell us how they, what their angle of vision is. The karmis are materialistic. The other 3 are transcendental. Right? So jnanis, yogis, and devotees are transcendental. Karmis are just only after material things. The first, then obviously there's categories of transcendentalists as well. So the first class transcendentalists are the devotees who have realized the Supreme Person. The second class transcendentalists are those who have partially realized the plenary portion of the absolute true person, which is Paramatma, the plenary portion. And the third class transcendentalists are those who have barely realized the spiritual focus of the absolute truth, which is like the effulgence, just barely realized. So as stated in the Bhagavad-Gita and other Vedic literatures, the Supreme Person is realized by devotional service. So the other 2, the effulgence, there is no devotional service because we think God is impersonal. There is no devotional service involved, just like a lot of speculation, a lot of knowledge, the Jnani type. And the yogis, they're just sitting, meditating on Paramatma. But in the full realization, there is devotional service, which is backed by full knowledge and detachment from material association, as we were talking last time. We have already discussed the point that devotional service is followed by knowledge and detachment from material association. We have already discussed the point as Brahman and Paramatma realization are imperfect realizations of the absolute truth. So the means of realizing Brahman and Paramatma, i.e. the paths of Jnana and Yoga, are also imperfect means of realizing the absolute truth. Devotional service, which is based on the foreground of full knowledge, combined with detachment from material association. So we can do devotional service, but we should also be becoming detached from material association, which is fixed by the oral reception of the Vedanta Shruti. Is the only perfect method by which the seriously inquisitive student can realize the absolute truth. Devotional service is not therefore meant for the less intelligent class of transcendentalists. There are 3 classes of devotees, namely first, second, and third class. The third class devotees are neophytes who have no knowledge and are not detached from material association. So even as a devotee, if you are neophyte means you still have attachment to material association. So then if you have material association, then still we can't consider ourselves any higher. We are third class devotees because we are devotees of material life, of Krishna. So spiritually, we may be first class devotees in the material sense, but in the spiritual sense, we are third class devotees who are simply attracted by the preliminary process of worshipping the deity in the temple, are called material devotees. Material devotees are more attached to material benefit than transcendental profit. Therefore, one has to make definite progress from the position of material devotional service to the second class devotional position. So we need to make progress. In the second class position, the devotee can see 4 principles in the devotional line, namely the personality of Godhead and his devotees, the ignorant and the envious. One has to raise himself at least to the stage of a second class devotee and thus become eligible to know the absolute truth. So to understand the absolute truth, we should be at least the second class devotee. We have to be detached from material. As more we detach ourselves from material life, the more we start attaching ourselves to the absolute truth. And when we are serving the absolute truth. So that second class devotee is what we're talking about is the Madhyam Adhikari. And I was saying last week that Srila Prabhupada said that we should be at least in that position of a Madhyam Adhikari, where we have some understanding and we can help other people to understand as well. So then he says that a third class devotee therefore has to receive the instructions of devotional service from the authoritative sources of Bhagavata. The number one Bhagavata is the established personality of devotee. And the other Bhagavatam is the message of Godhead. The third class devotee therefore has to go to the personality of devotee in order to learn the instructions of devotional service. So as a Madhyam Adhikari, we help this third class devotee. Such a personality devotee is not a professional man who earns his livelihood by the business of Bhagavatam. So Madhyam Adhikari, he's a true devotee. He's not doing this for a living. Such a devotee must be a representative of Shukadev Goswami, like Sutta Goswami, and must preach the cult of devotional service for the all-around benefit of all people. A neophyte devotee has very little taste for hearing from the authorities. Such a neophyte devotee makes a show of hearing from the professional man to satisfy his senses. This sort of hearing and chanting has spoiled the whole thing. So one should be very careful about the faulty process. The holy messages of God, as inculcated in the Bhagavad-Gita or in the Srimad Bhagavatam, are undoubtedly transcendental subjects, but even though they are so, such transcendental matters are not to be received from the professional man, who spoils them as the serpent spoils milk simply by the touch of his tongue. Yeah, I guess they're saying that there is no devotion. If somebody's doing this for a living, he's doing for his own business. He's doing for material reasons. So there is no spirituality or devotion involved, and that may rub off on us as well. Only bhakti can give bhakti. If a person is seriously in bhakti without any tinge of material gratification or agenda, then they can give you bhakti. But if a person doesn't have bhakti, then he can't give you bhakti. A sincere devotee must therefore prepare to hear the Vedic literature like the Upanishad, Vedanta and other literatures left by the previous authorities or Goswamis for the benefit of his progress. The previous Goswamis, the 6 Goswamis, they were billionaires by today's standards, and they just gave up everything to do bhakti because they knew that those material benefits that they had will be obstacle in their bhakti. Without hearing such literatures, one cannot make actual progress. And without hearing and following the instructions, the show of devotional service becomes worthless and therefore a sort of disturbance in the path of devotional service. Unless, therefore, devotional service is established on the principles of Shruti, Smriti, Puran, or Pancharatra authorities, the make-show of devotional service should at once be rejected. An unauthorized devotee should never be recognized as a pure devotee. By assimilation of such messages from the Vedic literatures, one can see the all-pervading, localized aspect of the personality Godhead within his own self constantly. This is called samadhi. So our samadhi is totally being absorbed in thinking about Krishna and the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. So there's an example of Bilvamangal Thakur, which we have discussed before. He plucked out his eyes and he met Krishna in Vrindavan. And with the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, so we don't need to pluck our eyes. We have the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, and we use those eyes to see the deities and purify the eyes, as in like Yukta Vairagya, and use the eyes in the service of the Lord. No need to pluck the eyes. So we have to have like a spiritual intelligence about these things. Bilvamangal Thakur, he had the capacity to do that, and he carried it through very nicely. And Krishna really appreciated what he did, but we don't need to do that, because we can just purify our eyes, because we have been given the knowledge Maybe he didn't have that knowledge at the time. We have been given the knowledge by Srila Prabhupada that everything we can use in Krishna service. So use his eyes, use the tongue, use the ears in Krishna's service. So I think we'll best leave it here, and like to hear from everyone on this. So yeah, so Madhya, that's we're aiming for, being Madhya Madhyakari. That's the position we want to be in. So we have an understanding of the mission of the devotees. We understand, obviously we associate with like-minded devotees, because even as devotees we don't have different frequencies. We cannot be liked by everyone, and we can't necessarily, like everyone, because we might not like the way they operate. But we still have to respect everyone and keep the decorum, and we associate with devotees, the like-minded, so where we can progress together and we help other people. This Krishna tests us all in our bhakti. We get tests all the time. We'll get tests in the temple. We'll get tests outside the temple. But we have to have understanding that it's my bhakti. I have to fly this plane. It's very important to me, and nobody can take my bhakti away from me. We have to be strong in our endeavor. People may want to. There's all sorts of people, and there's all sorts of categories of devotees. So we have to be careful, but we have to be strong in our resolve that now I'm going to continue my bhakti no matter what, because I'm the one who's responsible. I'm the one who's been given this instrument, this body, and only I can use it. Nobody else can use my body. Only I can use it, this body and mine, and I have to use it for this purpose, because I might not get another chance. And like I said, golden 10,000 years after that, maybe nobody will get a chance. We'll be just going downhill from then. And so, we can't look at other people, what they're doing, whether they like us, love us. That's their choice. We have to do the right thing by ourselves. So thank you all so much. Let's hear from you, your realizations or something that stood out for you. I'm starting from the Kaksh Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Anand Pranam. All to Srila Prabhupada. First, basically, like the senses, like Lord Krishna's name is Rishikesha, who is the master of all senses. And in Bhagavad-Gita, it is explained very nicely about the hierarchy of the body, like where we have dull matter, and above that we have senses, and above that we have mind, and above that intelligence, and above that the soul. But the soul got stuck within the body. So the goal, if the goal is clear, to develop prema and to get out of this cage, then our senses should be engaged in the same way. Our desires, we cannot be desireless, but we have to direct our desires properly. And if you understand the goal, that's what Arjuna asked in the Bhagavad-Gita chapter 13, what is jnana and what is jnaya. So what is the knowledge and what is the object of knowledge? So once we understand that we are not the body, we are the soul, but what needs to be done to the soul so that the soul can get liberated and get a permanent happiness, then we have to engage all our senses in the master of senses, in satisfying the supreme master. And and in the last, Prabhupada nicely explained about the three forms of the Lord, which is Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan. So absolute Bhagwan feature. We cannot attain pure devotional service by following the path of yoga or karma, but only through devotional service only we can understand the Lord, and through devotees only we can understand the Lord. So we should not be hearing about these transcendental matters from any professional speakers. We often come across so many speakers. Recently I met a person in Hyderabad and asked him, "Can I give you Bhagavad Gita?" And he asked me, "You give me Bhagavad Gita? Do you know who I am?" I said, and I don't know who you are. Initially, I thought maybe he's a Christian or what, but he said, no, no, I'm actually, he is a Hindu only. And he said, I write Bhagavad Gita. I don't need this Bhagavad Gita. No, I write Bhagavad Gita. So it shows that, I mean, he's how much he is interested in his own propaganda rather than relying on the in the parampara. He is not coming in any parampara as such. He is saying that I have translated Bhagavad Gita twice or thrice now. I don't need this Bhagavad Gita anymore. That's what he was saying. So once you listen about Bhagavad Gita under the guidance of spiritual masters in a proper parampara, then you'll understand the real essence of Bhagavad Gita and our position in relation to Supreme Lord. Hare Krishna. Prabhuji.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Manishinda. Yeah, this is the thing. Prabhupada said there's so many different, especially in English, there's so many translations. People have made up their own philosophy, and it's dangerous, because the ordinary person who hasn't, been able to get in touch with the parampara system will fall victim to that. That they will just believe what they read, and although they might be sincere, but that they be getting the wrong message, the wrong philosophy. So this is why a lot of people are afraid of religion, because they think that they don't know if they have the right thing or the wrong thing. And then they've lost out of material enjoyment, and they've lost out of the real knowledge as well. So we are blessed that we have the right knowledge, we have the right philosophy, and we are connected to Krishna himself. It's there, it's all as it is explained, how it follows through, and everything makes sense. I mean, we have a lot of religions who don't even have any regulations. Eat, drink, and be merry, and just remember God time to time. That's it. That's it, and you will go back. That's a promise they're making you. But how is that possible if you're so attached to sense gratification, to material life? You're going to be coming back here to enjoy more. Krishna says, I'll fulfill all your desires. So you want to enjoy, he will give you more opportunities. Maybe as animals, you can enjoy properly. So I don't know. People make up their own philosophy. Thank you for sharing, Prabhu. Kiran Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everybody. The mind and the senses are going to be with us birth after birth. However, it's how we exercise the austerity of the mind and the senses. Easier to control the wind than to control the mind. And so it's those abilities to be controlled in the process of understanding this absolute truth will help us on that journey to also realizing that there is a difference between the Brahman, the Atma, and the Bhagwan. One is only partial, and one the absolute complete truth. And what our journeys on the daily basis does is sharpen that realization that we are looking for Bhagwan, the prema, the love of divinity. And this process can only be acquired through a level of absolute humility, sincerity, and being totally committed and having that hunger and desire for that absolute knowledge. There are people, as Pundakash just said, somebody has been writing and repeating and regurgitating the Gita, but there's a lack of humility and sincerity. If we actually just say, no, I know very little, I'm an aspirant in that journey, then we will become better for Krishna's mercy, so we can be endowed with such humility, so we can be taken seriously in this journey. But sometimes the ego and the lack of mind and sense control will take us on a different direction. And it's an absolutely fascinating journey, because earlier there was the qualities of the Lord, and there were the quantities of the Lord. The sun and the ray of the sun are two totally different. The sea and the drop of water are two different, but they're part and partial of the one. And we are part and partial of the one divinity. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Yeah, and plus, these people writing their own. I mean, it's considered like dry speculation, because there's a program saying that Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad-Gita is like totally focused on devotional service. It's all the way through. Even now, today, we talk about devotional service, and that's the relationship that we have with Krishna, our constitutional position, that we are his servants. Now, these other people writing, I haven't read any of the Bhagavad-Gita, but I've heard about them, and they're just making their own speculations. But unless it contains devotional service, they're useless. It's just useless information. Imagine reading a magazine. Vyasadeva, he had the same problem. He wrote the Vedas, Upanishads, Puranas, and he's still dissatisfied because he hadn't included devotional service, glorification of the Lord. And unless those things are in there, you can write millions of books. They are meaningless, because they don't connect you to Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Okay, Deepak Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Sorry for joining late. I was just running with school run and everything. Couple of takeaways for me. Like, for example, from 1.2.10, it says that life's desire should not be directed towards sense gratification. But like I heard that somebody asked Prabhupada that why do you pray and what do you pray for? And he said that I pray that God should save me from Maya, because Maya is so great. It doesn't kind of spare anyone. And over and above our senses, they are so strong that they keep even, I would say, so-called devotees and higher class of people in tech kind of clinged on to the material desires as well. So many times, if you see, or I was watching a video on YouTube about, I think there was this ceremony going on in Radharaman temple, and the Goswamis there, they had to go out and get some Yamuna water. So obviously it's a big ceremony in Braj. And when they were going out with the bodyguards, big marshals, like the ones that you have outside nightclubs and everything. And I was thinking, why do you need marshals? Who's going to kill you or who's going to slap you? But the only thing is that because they feel that they are Goswamis and they have that, they are the head of this temple and everything. So that material sense has gone into them that, oh, I am the president, or I am this Goswami and everything. I was really, really surprised. Never ever seen thing like that. I mean, walking out with marshals and bodyguards and behaving like that, okay, I'm the top shot. In the same, and in the 1.2.12 as well, when it distinguishes about the first and second class and the third class devotees. I mean, over and above, you might see that, okay, we have a first class devotee, or very rare to see a first class, or there is a second class devotee. But internally, when you come to know them, you realize that no, they are not even second class, they are third class, the same going around with entangled in their principles, and not in the principles, in their sense gratification, trying to, still entangled in the worldly desires and material gains and everything. So what they sometimes have seen in and around our temples, you'll see that a lot of, why do we have all these fights in temples and gurudwaras and everything? So there is one committee, and then over a period of time there's another committee. Especially I see because I come from Punjab, so there's a gurudwara, and then over a period of time you will see that 3 or 4 years or 10 years later there's another gurudwara, because the committee was not getting along. So I think it is just the egos and their material desires getting in with thinking that, okay, I am the president, or I am the secretary, or everybody, all the devotees should come to me and they should, kind of bow down to me and obey me. But that is not what it is being said in the Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita. And I think there is a true requirement of teachers who are actually walking the talk. Like that example that I once quoted, that this lady who went to a Swamiji and she said that, oh, my son eats a lot of chocolate. Can you please ask him not to eat chocolate? And Swamiji says, okay, that's fine. I'll tell him, he'll come back after 14 days. So she goes again after 14 days, and then obviously he kind of gives the class to the boy, and the boy ultimately leaves the chocolate. The lady was happy, and then she asked Swamiji, Swamiji, he's okay, he's left the chocolate now, but why did you ask for 14 days time? And Swamiji says, because even I used to eat a lot of chocolate. So I think we need more people like that, not like the ones who say, nahi, nahi, chocolate nahi khana, don't eat chocolate. But in and around, and you go to their home and you'll see there are lots of boxes of chocolate eating themselves. So those were the main takeaways from myself. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
thank you. Yes, we need acharyas and we need servant leaders. That's, as long as we can remember, we are not just leaders or presidents, we are servant leaders. We're here to serve. Even in politics, if the prime ministers and the presidents can understand that we are here to serve the society, the people we are leading, not abuse them or exploit them, then every country, leadership will be great. They will thrive. So yeah, sometimes it gets forgotten, but that's the danger of, like I say, Maya is very strong. It can help. It can affect people. It knows your weaknesses, and it can trigger things that even you don't imagine, will be triggered. Hare Krishna. Praveen Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dhanavad Pranam. Yes, very nice points by everyone. It's the importance of devotional service is emphasized in all these verses. And for me, example of Maharaj Ambarish comes, how Maharaj Ambarish, he engaged all his senses, like his mind in meditating upon the lotus feet of Krishna, his hands, his ears in hearing, cleaning the temple, going to the temple. So that's what our aim should be, how we are going to control our senses. And like they say, higher taste. So our way of living should be to serve Krishna. That is the higher taste. So when we make prasadam, we offer to Krishna. But Krishna is so merciful that he's allowing us to have nice prasad. So everything we are getting, we're getting like better than the other people, who are not offering to Krishna. So it's just understanding, what is our aim of life. Like you mentioned, our aim is to be Madhyamadikari. So we can only be Madhyamadikari if we have regulated life, listen to our Acharyas. We are very fortunate. We've got examples of so many Acharyas, and we have to follow and taking the instructions of the spiritual master. So that will help us. Yeah, and in my mind, it's coming that Modi, he needs to do something about the books, because we feel that way as well, because anybody gets up and they think they can write a book, and something should be done to preserve Gita as it is, So there should be only one Gita, copy of Gita, that everybody should have. So I'm sure, like, I don't know, but I'm sure it is the case in Sikhism and Islam. So I don't think they will have like various copies. So let's pray that Krishna gives wisdom to our leaders. They can do something about that. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you, sharing Mataji. Hare Krishna. Radharani?
Hare Krishna, everyone. Yes, what I learnt from today's Sangha is that that hearing and chanting is not for enjoyment. That's a big takeaway. Sometimes we are listening to classes, we say, oh, I'm enjoying. And we forget, sometimes it happens to us many days, that we forget to take away the most important lesson in that hearing. And even in chanting, when we say, oh, I'm enjoying my chanting, enjoying for what purpose? Chanting also has got a purpose, hearing also has got a purpose. And this as it is, why Prabhupada has stressed for as it is, that we have to cling on to this as it is, whether it is in the hearing department, whether it is in the preaching. So when we are preaching, we have to give references where have we learnt it from? Where is my, whatever I'm trying to explain it to others, where is that explanation coming from? So as it is, and this hearing and chanting is for advancement. That is the big key takeaway for me today. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, and thank you all for joining, and we'll continue on Friday. Hari Hari Bol, Shri Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Prem Nande.
Hare Hare Bol.
Hare Hare Bol. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.